Hey, what's going on, guys? First RV here. Welcome back to our Mission Command series with part 4. And today we're talking about Mission Command approach, right? How to approach Mission Command in your organizations and also give you some pointers on where to start, okay, to start this process. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen and we're going to jump into Mission Command part 4. All right, like I said, Mission Command approach part 4, right? So I love this quote. This is by George Patton, right? So never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity, right? So you'd be surprised on empowering your subordinates what it's going to accomplish. So mission command approach, right? So Army operations doctrine emphasizes shattering the enemy's forces' ability to resist, ability and will to resist and destroy, right? So we've talked about this before. We accomplish these things by controlling the nature, scope, and tempo of an operation, striking simultaneously through the area of operations control, whether it be neutralize, destroy the enemy, or its objects. Army's command and control doctrine supports its operations doctrine. We're going to get further into that little ways down the series. It also balances coordination, personal leadership, and tactical flexibility. Mission command approach, right? So it stresses rapid decision making and execution, including rapid response to ever changing situations. All right. It emphasizes mutual trust and shared understanding among superiors and subordinates. So, Army's definition, right? So, mission command is the Army's approach to command and control that empowers subordinate decision making and decentralizes execution appropriate to the situation. Mission Command supports the Army's operational concept of unified land operations, and it emphasizes on seizing, retaining, and exploiting the initiative. We're going to get more into that few videos from now. So Mission Command approach, right? So command and control is based on the Army's view the war is chaotic. We talked about this before. No plan can account for every possibility, and most plans must be changed rapidly during execution to change the situation. No single person is ever significant and informed to make every important decision, okay? Nor can a single person keep up with the number of decisions that need to be made during combat. Enemy forces may behave differently than expected. Route may become impassable, or units can consume supplies at unexpected rates, okay? So these are all things that you take into consideration when making decisions and exercising mission command. Friction, unforeseen combinations of variables. Okay, so we need to, like I said, we need to look at all the different variables. Mission command helps commanders emphasize ingenuities, innovation, and decision making to achieve the commander's intent when conditions change or current orders are no longer relevant. Employing mission command approach during all garrison activities and training events is essential to creating the cultural foundation for its employment in a high-risk environment. So what I'm saying is if you practice mission command and garrison, it's going to be so much easier for you once you get to that type of high-risk environment. Subordinates empowered to make decisions during operations, okay? So by doing that, it's going to unburden our higher echelon commanders from from issues that distract from necessary perspective, okay? Subordinate decisions should be ethical based and within the framework of higher echelons commander's intent. So every decision we make, we must keep the commander's intent our number one priority. Like we talked about before, rapidly changing situations and uncertainty are inherited in operations. Okay. Commanders determine the degree of control necessary to synchronize their operations. Excessive synchronization can lead to too much control, which limits the initiative of subordinates and undermines mission command. We have to give our subordinates and empower them the ability to move left and right. All right. All right. So mission command. So military leaders know that empowering a subordinate to create a plan and execute it with his leader intent will not only develop the individual capabilities, but also achieve the task more efficiently, all right, and effectively. So we need to keep that in mind. Many other types of organizations promote a high power cultural and individual growth, including professional sport teams, right? So everything can be related to mission command. Another great example is military small team operations and the philosophy of mission command, right? So if you look at ADP 6-0 mission command and control of Army forces offers an excellent reference point for cooperative leaders who want to ease off the reins and give the individual teams some freedom to grow. This does promote self-growth as well as team growth. Although there is a time and place to be directive and controlling, there's also times when leaders are called to coach and mentor the people in their teams, okay? And as NCOs, that's all we do. We coach, mentor, teach. With mission command approach, leaders encourage their team members to trust their own abilities and come to their own conclusions as they navigate their way through a complex task, project, or engagement. For mission command to be successful, okay, the number one priority is mutual trust has to be established. We have to be able to trust one another. Trust is something that's earned by both leaders and those who work under them, okay? Without trust, micromanaging can become the default setting as teams operate under fear of failure. We don't want our subordinates to operate under the threat of failure. Mission command philosophy demands more of each individual of the team. Leaders must know how to lead, not just the technical proficiency or the hide behind the title. And team members must be prepared to take on a new level of freedom to act and make decisions. One thing that we practice in my current unit is we try to teach 2 jobs up. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? So in case, let's say I go down, someone needs to know how to replace me, right? When a mission command approaches is launched correctly, the potential for success expands and creates tangible benefits for both individual and the team. Done right, mission command approaches empowers employees to develop their own leadership style and builds their self-confidence. Building self-confidence is critical when it comes to mission command, okay? And it starts with mutual trust. To be effective, the principles of building blocks must be in place. A word of warning, okay? Mission command is not a cookie cutter framework that can be easily applied, okay? The conditions must be right, and leaders and their employees must all be on board. You have to be all in with mission command. Leaders can use this philosophy for inspiration and a point of reference to develop their own leadership style and approach high performance teams. So you're wondering where to start, right? So I came up with 3 basic ideas on where to start. So the first one is maximize the planning and preparation phases of training, okay? With respect to teaching mission command, the most important element of the planning phase is the clear identification of which unit and leader tasks are to be trained during a specific training event. We have to be able to know exactly what is expected of us. A generic label like platoon training will not do, okay? Whether you be a company commander or battalion commander must insist upon identifying platoon level tasks. For example, movement to contact or raid or perimeter defense. These are just some ideas on what you could actually train on to actually get rid of that generic label. Only the level allows proper development of evaluation plan and adequate identification of the right conditions must be created so the task can be performed as standard. All right, so that your task conditions standards. Important tasks are identified. The commander and command sergeant major or the first sergeant must ensure that platoon sergeants and platoon NCOs know how to execute these tasks and standards, okay? Good command teams don't assume proficiency. Rather, one thing that we do, we conduct in-unit officer and NCO professional development sessions to ensure subordinate leaders know what right looks like. All right, so we sit in a lot of LPDs, take that as a learning experience and take that as a way to maximize how to train on mission command. A good practice is for the commanders to personally teach their lieutenants, okay? You have to be invested in your lieutenants. If the commander prefers to use company commanders to do the teaching, you know, there is an added session required to make the company commanders know what they're talking about, okay? So at all levels of echelon, in order to train on something, you should be proficient. You should have done your homework on that task. I think one of the worst things we can do in the Army is have an NCO go out there and try to teach something and they have no freaking clue on what they're talking about. We have to keep that in mind, okay? The command sergeant major, you know how the Army's rank structure is 2 up, 1 down for mentorship. The command sergeant major should teach platoon sergeants and make sure the company first sergeant teach squad leaders, okay? My job is to develop squad leaders. The command sergeant major's job is to develop the platoon sergeants. Such teaching can be done in the classroom, stand table, terrain walk without troops. All right, so there's many different ways we can get after this training. This methodology reinforces the 2-level down approach necessary for proper mission command. Subordinate leaders will learn not just how to execute the standard, but also, perhaps most importantly, how the battalion commander, command sergeant major, commander, first sergeant think about leadership at their level and how the platoon level fits in, okay? So every level has a objective or intent to accomplish this mission command. The preparation phase also includes walking terrain, which training will take place, okay? The terrain walk has two purposes. First, the command team identifies what must be done to prepare the land ahead of training and what opposing forces are necessary to make sure the training unit is properly challenged, right? In trainings we fight. We want to make it as realistic as possible. Second, the command team must identify any training aids or equipment that must be in place, and again to assure condition of training performance to standard. Conditions matter, and setting the right conditions require time and leader attention. The terrain walk usually includes the battalion officer, at the battalion level, or it could be your company platoon sergeants, your XO, whoever the person responsible for coordinating training support. A third form of preparation, okay, may include leader team training. All right, so this methodology trains groups of leaders as a team. Okay, it's designed to teach subordinate leaders to think and act 1 and 2 levels up in order to increase the probability that they will use the initiative correctly. Okay, with the senior commander's intent. So second is use situational training exercises or STXs to achieve multiple aims. The battalion command teams, which I have learned are the most that are effective, understand that sticks is more than one purpose, okay? At the base level, sticks can set the conditions for route learning. That is for units, leaders, soldiers to practice repetitively unit standard operating procedures, okay? So all of our SOPs actually mean something. It's not just something that we write and we just set aside. We actually should train and conduct all day operations like that. On this basis, level is achieved. However, the level of difficulty can and should increase, okay? For example, the command team can insert more enemy to engage with or without training unit knowledge. The command team can provide less or misleading information about the enemy's size, location, disposition, or arms. We can disrupt communications between platoon leaders and higher headquarters. All we're trying to do is build the training as real as it could be for like in a combat setting. These kind of sticks conditions teach leader judgment, not just execution and SOPs. Additionally, they will help platoon leaders and platoon sergeants learn how to use initiative with the intent of the command and battalion commanders. Judgment sticks are used to key to effective unit and leader learning. In some respects, the Army's combat training centers are giant judgment sticks, right? Designed to develop in not only unit task proficiency, but leader judgment proficiency. All right. Command teams must strive to set combat training centers like conditions. I've seen many command teams set up realistic training, including multiple sticks with increasing difficulty, right? All without the high cost of combat training, like instrumental or high personal costs, right? Just keep that in mind. All right, so the third one, right? Short training is evaluated and repeated if the unit leaders do not meet performance standards. I know we're all pressed with time. We don't have a lot of time on our training calendar. Our white space is all filled up, but we have to make time to retrain and ensure that they meet the standard. All training, unit leaders, and soldiers need to be evaluated. All right. Proper evaluation starts in the planning phase, okay? That identifies the task of preparation, training aids, evaluation outline that the platoon leader pockets both officers and NCOs. So I think it's important going into a training event that we understand exactly what is expected of us. There's nothing wrong with giving them the task condition standards ahead of time so they know what they're going to be graded on. They know what's expected of them. Leaders often think about evaluations as external and formal, like combat training centers, okay? But at home station, the best battalion, company command teams I've witnessed use internal and informal evaluations to maximize benefits, okay? Internal is the unit's chain of command evaluates itself. Informal, the unit conducts its own after-action reviews with pre-identified training and evaluation outline. So using this methodology serves two purposes, okay? First, it forces the unit chain of command to study and understand the standards of that unit, okay? You need to understand your unit metal. That itself, powerful for in combat, okay? External evaluators don't really exist. Second, it places responsibility for performing the standard at the lowest levels. From the private to the platoon sergeant, everybody has a part and they're all evaluated. It allows the platoon's chain of command to feel the weight of responsibility for performing the standard. Look, There's nothing wrong if you know someone did not perform the standard, retrain them. All right. It's only going to make them better, and it's going to make your organization stronger. This feeling produces a habit in units that produces multiples other benefits. Okay. So decentralize how the battalion is managed, right? So you can use this for the battalion or your company. Teaching mission command through proper use of Army training doctrine takes place with larger context on the way a battalion operates, okay? So we must train our units, our place in the battalion. What are we doing to support the battalion and how we fit in the big picture? The best command teams don't operate decentralized while training in the field, but centralized in garrison. That kind of action is not only confusing the subordinates, but is really counterproductive. All right, we need to know our place. So let's talk about garrison operations. So garrison operations must foster a mission command climate. I'm going to say it again. Must foster a mission command climate. The successful battalion command teams or company command teams I've witnessed are those that foster a big four approach to action, okay? This is the first way a command team can use garrison operations to foster a climate of mission command. That is, battalion executive officer, your company executive officer, command sergeant major, your first sergeant, your commander, battalion commander, any subject, right? The commander was not a or a lone ranger from whom all things he derived. Certainly, the commander remained responsible for all the unit did or did not do, but great commanders exercise the responsibility through the other senior leaders. All right. So if you have a good commander, he's going to, once you build that mutual trust and understanding, and he knows that you understand the mission or the commander's intent, he should give you the ability to exercise responsibility. Second, most of those judged great commanders did not attend every command or staff meeting, okay? So a commander doesn't need to be present for everything we do, all right? Once we have his intent, we know we have his guidance and it's clear, we should be able to act and perform off of what he has instructed us or guided us in. In fact, some attendants no staff meetings, okay? Instead, they place the responsibility of running the staff on the executive officer, right? Neither did these commanders run the training support meetings or the battalion maintenance meetings, all right? Give everyone a shot. Teach them, right? Levels up, levels down. That was the responsibility of the operations and executive officers, all right? By delegating the responsibility, not only freed up a good bit of time for the commander, but it also was the means to routine garrison activities that fostered the mission command climate. So I have two final points in this video. First, there are just 4 techniques I've seen work. Okay, there are probably many more. I mean, these are the 4 techniques I've seen that actually work. How to start approaching mission command and building it. Okay, what I said about the battalion command teams also applies to whoever. Right, modify a bit from brigade through corps command teams. Brigade commanders, command sergeant majors cannot assume their company commanders or first sergeants know how to think and act at a brigade level. Mentorship, LPDs, clear, decisive, commander's intent and guidance, right? We need to know these things to know how we're supposed to operate at that level. Nor can division commanding generals and their command sergeant majors assume the battalion level leaders know how to act. Like we talked about, it all filters in. This teaching mission command stuff goes all the way up and all the way down the chain of command. Like I said, and I'll tell you the best way to start mission command is your integration counseling, right? Get a brand new soldier, explain to him the importance of mission command and what we're trying to build here. Give him the commander's guidance, his intent. So I hope this video was helpful. I forgot to say it earlier, but if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, go Ordnance.